At the National Farm Machinery Show, I'm visiting with FMC, and I have with me Rick Ekins. And Rick, first of all, what do you do for FMC?
I lead our application technologies group, which is the technologies that enable growers to apply the products that we sell in ways that are sustainable and much different than what they're accustomed to.
Yeah, let's talk about what we call in-furrow treatment. I think this is something you've got some good information on in terms of how growers are or are not using it. But what are some of the benefits that this is going to offer to growers?
Biggest thing is you put a seed in the ground, you need that seed to grow. And then you need it to produce, and you need it to accelerate growth. You need it to be productive throughout its entire life cycle. So establishing that environment early on, as early as you can, and you can't get any earlier than during planting. That's what we do with our crop protection products, is we build zones of protection around those seeds and those seedlings, and we're using a multitude of active ingredients. Some might be systemic, so that means they get taken up by the plant and they give you better benefits later on in the season. So we're really trying to get that plant off to a robust start. That's the best thing you can do for that seed.
I think you said you've got some information or research that talks about, how, like what percentage of growers are taking advantage of this or are not. Anything you might want to share there, and also say in terms of why or growers should be if they are in that category of not
Yeah.
using it.
We did have a recent market study that just came back that said that more than 60% of growers who are going to buy a new planter were going to put a liquid starter system on it. We see that in the regulatory environment in terms of how nutrients are applied and broadcast versus much more site specific. So that's probably driving that decision as much as anything else, is putting the nutrients where they can make the most benefit for that plant. So we're seeing adoption of liquid systems increase. And when you do that, obviously you need to be able to put crop protection products into that environment as well. So you're familiar with our LFR platform. We've been doing that for years. You've got, if 60% of growers are going to have liquid fertilizer systems on there, we're going to continue to innovate in that arena. For those that don't, we've talked about Thrive 3D before and how we've got an application system that suits growers that are going to do something else for their crop nutrition program. So for us, it's not about how you feed your crop, it's how you protect your crop in the system that you're working with.
How about what I know is near and dear to the heart of any farmer or grower out there, just cost. I mean, they're doing something that's they either haven't done before, but it's adding another component, justifying the investment in that.
You know, the best defense against the low commodity prices is a bigger crop. So how do you get that bigger crop? And there's a plethora of research out there talking about these high production systems. And when you have a high production system, if you start taking one piece out of that system, it might cost you more than you think in terms of yield benefits to the plant. So once you've built that production system around that plant, starting to take little pieces away from it is going to be more expensive than you think. Your seed investment is big. Your nutrition investment is big. Your land investment is big. Your crop protection investment on a percentage basis is pretty small. And so how do you get the most out of your biggest investments? Protect that crop, feed that crop, nurture that crop, get a lot out of that crop.
What are the things that make FMC's in-furrow applications unique and of maybe best benefit for that matter?
Liquid fertilizer ready, that's been around for a couple of decades now. That blends right into liquid fertilizers, mixes readily, stays in suspension. It's very easy to use. Your market's familiar with that. Your customers, our customers are familiar with that. Thrive 3D really takes the work out of crop protection in that it's a very small system. It's delivering very low volumes. It's allowing growers to plant and protect up to 500 acres without stopping to refill. So it's really taking the work out of it, and it's delivering very precise rates of active ingredients right to the seed zone where it's needed. So it's not just about the products itself, or the products themselves, it's also about how you deliver them that increase your efficiency, that increase your productivity, take some of the work out, take some of the labor out. That's another big expense that growers have is labor. So how do we help them take some labor out of their operation without giving up any of the productivity that they need?
We mentioned investing, but how about on FMC side when it comes to this in-furrow space? What are you kind of doing and what can growers expect from FMC as you continue to do that?
Well, first we have what I call a dual strategy here. If there's a product that is a valuable in-furrow product, then for us it means we'll develop it in liquid fertilizer ready, and we'll develop it in Thrive 3D. Because it's not up to us to choose how the grower applies product. So we're going to accommodate either one of those with our formulation technology. So that's thing one. Thing two, we purchased a significant portion of assets a year ago. With that came some diamide classes of chemistry that we've now formulated to go into our Thrive 3D system. So we're exploring new modes of action in the insecticide realm. We have a fungicide that's pending registration right now that does some remarkable things in a corn crop as well as cotton and other crops. So we're starting to expand our crop view beyond just the corn and the soybeans that we've talked about before. And then our discovery pipeline is just chock full of stuff: insecticides, fungicides, new modes of action, new classes of chemistry. So it's very exciting to see what's coming down the road in terms of our discovery pipeline too.
So you kind of mentioned or answered this, but maybe just to touch on it again, just how important early season treatment is, and what would you say to growers who maybe aren't even considering that right at this point?
You know, it's interesting. We were having this discussion this morning with some of our product development folks. There are diseases that are taken up by the plant almost immediately after seeding, but you don't see symptoms until way later in the season. Well, once the plant's already got them, there's nothing you can do about that. An in-furrow product that protects against that particular disease, when that seedling pops through the ground, that protection's already there. So it allows you to prevent infection to begin with, because once the plant's infected, there's not a thing you can do about it. So if you're in an environment where you've got cold planting conditions, you know you've had a history of disease pressure, or you know you've had a history of insect pressure, you can get out in front of that by putting these products down at planting time. Because again, there's no earlier way than to put it in the ground with the seed, and when that seed germinates and that seedling starts to grow, you're protecting that thing right from the beginning.
Well, as we speak, we're just about to that early planting time. Not sure if there's anybody that's trying to get a jump on it, but weather hasn't cooperated a whole lot throughout, especially the Midwest. Before we close, any other final thoughts in terms of what FMC is doing, especially in this area, or anything we didn't touch on there you might want to pass along?
I think if you look at the history of our innovation, especially in this in-furrow business, most of what we sell now came out of the mind of a grower or a discussion that we had with a grower. So if you're thinking it, tell us about it, because we might not be thinking it yet. And if there are problems that you need addressed that we haven't addressed yet as an industry, well, the only way we find out about that is to have that open exchange. So we really encourage growers to connect with us all the time and talk to us about what their problems are, because we might have a solution we just haven't thought about yet.
Well, good. Thank you very much, Rick, for visiting with me here. Good to see you again here. We're at the National Farm Machinery Show taking place in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm Chuck Zimmerman reporting.